our next presenter is Tisha Coleman from the Broward County Housing Authority. She's a residence relations manager, and I actually got the chance last summer to go visit their site, and it was really wonderful. And last year she also presented on a webinar, and I'm bringing her back because she's such an inspirational speaker. So Tisha, please take it away.
Well, hello everybody. Can you hear me? Am I good?
Yes, Tisha, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, my name is Tisha Coleman. I'm with the Broward County Housing Authority, where Ann Divert is our executive director. And I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you very much for allowing us back this year to share our experience with the feeding program. And I hope that you guys find this information very informative and inspiring to actually do a site for yourself, those of us who are not participating at this time. I also want to add that listening to the other housing authority, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I do want to also say that it is important to have the support of your executive director and all of the executive staff in order to make this program a success. And I was having that conversation with my executive director earlier today. So that is a very, very key piece to making sure that this is going to be a success in your communities. Well, the next slide is about getting started and how you become a feeding site and who is your sponsor. Well, the Housing Authority has a very unique experience with our sponsor because our sponsor is the Broward Meals on Wheels, who is traditionally a feeding program for the elderly. And what I like about our sponsor is that it's a unique partnership where they had never had an opportunity to feed children, and now they're working with us to feed our children. Marketing and outreach is very important. We start very early with marketing our program with our volunteers. So what happens is our residents are selected volunteers in the communities. They go out, they knock on doors, they give information. We put up flyers early. We start our meeting and our training very early in this program because the goal is to make it as accessible and as efficient as possible through the summer. Another important piece to making this all happen, and I was looking at the questions also, and a lot of the questions are about who pays the volunteers. And what we did here in Broward with our other partners, which is Children's Services Council, Florida Impact, and Broward Meals on Wheels. We're the 4 original partners, and you'll see later on in the slides how these partnerships have grown because everyone wants to kind of be a part of it because it's such a wonderful program. And that's a huge piece of making your program successful also. So our volunteers are paid. And what we do, we have a 4-hour block of our feeding program, and we pay for 2 hours, and then our residents volunteer for the other 2 hours. So at each one of our sites, we have at least 2 volunteers. Now, we may have a paid volunteer and a student intern or high school person who are needing hours for graduation. So it's just another way to provide an opportunity for someone to be successful. Our volunteers are paid through a stipend, which is a grant that we get through our Children's Services Council. And now, which is so phenomenal for us, this is our 3rd year doing the program, and we don't have to apply for a grant to pay our volunteers. We're actually a line item on our Children's Services Council budget so that we can have this program to be successful with the paid stipend for our residents. It also allowed us to upgrade our meals, so all of our meals come hot 5 days a week. In 2015, we added a swimming program to our program, and our kids got to go on a 2-week swimming training, and we needed transportation for that. And so through our grant funding, we were able to provide transportation. And then also, again, I'll go back to getting the support from your executive director because my executive director also made a contribution to ensure that our children get the swimming lessons, and transportation was an issue, and she stepped up to the plate and said, we will take this on because she's also committed to this program as well. And then there are also supplies. There's a couple of our sites that do not have community space. And, again, we are very committed to this program. So if things come up like tents, a lot of two of our properties have tents, so we had to purchase tents in order for the kids to have something to eat underneath so they're safe from the rain and the heat. And anything else that comes up to make the program successful or fill a void in the program, we take care of that through our supplies. Establishing the partnerships, again, is very critical to this program to bring in the activities that the kids do, because I do agree with the other presenters that, you know, it increases the participation if you have something for the children to do, something for them to look forward to, something to get them outside opposed to just eating. So, yes, they get the nutrition, which is the reason we do the program, but they also get some other activities as well, and it just helps them in their growth. So I think it's a phenomenal thing if you're able to get partners to provide services to your kids, like arts and crafts or the swimming or bully workshops or whatever it is, healthy eating, food demonstrations. A lot of those things came out of our partnerships, as you'll see further down. And then, it's not moving. Oh, okay. So then recruiting your volunteers. So the first thing we do is we identify, secure, and prepare our locations. So after doing the assessment for the locations, we make sure that everything is needed, like a place for the children to wash their hands and a sink and a refrigerator and a stove. You have to have all of those things, or to make sure that there's a place for the food to be heated. So it doesn't have to be a stove. If we don't have a stove on site, you may get a warming tray or something like that to keep the food at the proper temperature. And once that is done, it benefits the housing authority if the volunteers live on site. So we do use all of our volunteers from the properties, and it just gives the residents a buy-in to the environment in which they live. It eliminates transportation issues. The families are familiar with the staff, what goes on, you know, in the community, so they're better equipped to make sure that everything is successful and safe, and that the kids just enjoy the environment in which you're feeding them or that they're having a good time in. We also survey our residents to determine program participation so that we can make sure we have enough staff, whether it's volunteer or paid staff, to make sure that everything is operating properly. And when you're choosing your volunteers, you might make sure that you partner with your property manager to make sure that you vet the person that you're going to volunteer with. That you're going to have volunteering for you. And then if you have a social service person within your agency, it would be very beneficial to speak to that person as well to make sure that you get the right fit for the program in terms of volunteer staffing. Also, we also have our sponsor train our volunteers on the program itself, which is very important to understand the program and the paperwork and ordering and what has to be done. That process is important. And then we do a lot of on-the-job training about the duties, how important it is to make sure that the environment is safe and clean up any spills, and all of the paperwork is done properly at the beginning and the end of the day. How you make sure that the food is at the right temperature, if there's any issues, who to call, you know, an order of who to call if something was to come up. So that's very important in our training. And we go through different runs and have different meetings in the beginning with our volunteer staff to make sure that they clearly understand their roles and their responsibilities in that position for the summer. And proper oversight is important. We do have paid staff, BCHA staff at each one of the sites. So we have someone on the property at all times to make sure that everything is going the way that it should go. one of the most important things for me as the resident relations manager is that I empower and encourage my volunteers to take ownership of the program, because it just gives a better position, a disposition to running the program. You know, that they're not just getting out of their apartment, and I tell them all the time, it's not just waking up to serve food. You have to be willing to give everything you have to make sure that this program is ran properly, and that you are responsible, even though it's not a job, but it is a lot of responsibility, and the Broward County Housing Authority wants you to take ownership. So we do a lot of empowering, we do a lot of coaching and mentoring in these positions as well in terms of leadership staff. And then the stipends are paid to them again for 2 hours. So it's 2 hours of a stipend and 2 hours of a volunteer, which the volunteers agreed to so that everybody can take part and we can get enough people to participate in the program. And then at the end of the summer, we do an appreciation for the volunteer staff, which just makes them feel really good and really appreciated. So we have a lot of activities, and I'm sure I left out a lot of things on this slide, but just to give you an idea, we have a literacy program that goes along with this, with the feeding program, the swimming lessons. We do cooking demonstration, book bag giveaways. There's a lot of job skill training that goes on. We do resume building. We bring out things like we have the Miami Heat mascot. We do talent shows so that the kids can tap into their own greatness. So they get up and we put up the tent and we do all kind of things with them so that they can just get a different appreciation about their living environment as well. We do arts and crafts and sports activities. And the win-win-win is that for us, it has increased our community resident involvement. And even over the weekend, we had found that our residents would come together and have cookouts and do basketball games and just really get into the environment and take some stock into their children as a community. So this has been a phenomenal experience for us just to kind of watch how the community has turned around, and the cohesion within the community has been a huge deal for the Housing Authority. And also, our sites are open as well, so it's not just the residents that live within our complexes. The community as a whole is involved in our summer program, and we welcome it. We have not had any issues in any way, shape, or form, and we're just looking every year for this program to grow and get better. So in celebrating success, our partnerships have grown double, and every day we're getting a different partner providing services to our residents. And one of the huge things that we had for last year is that we had our Broward Sheriff's Office become a partner, and they come out every week and do some type of skills training, bullying, cyberbullying, self-awareness. So that was huge for us because a lot of children see police in a negative way. So it was an opportunity for us and our residents to get a different look at how our police department serves us and how they are a positive attribute to our community. So that was really, really good for us. And then just to give you some numbers, in 2014 we had 7 sites. We served 2,700 meals, or almost 28,000 meals, and 974 kids were served, and then the reimbursements and the budget. So for 2015, we went from 7 to 24 sites, 65,000, almost 66,000 meals were served, and almost 2,500 kids came through the program. And the increase was 138% in meals, 155% in children, and then we added churches and parks, and just a whole community just kind of stepped in and said that we're going to take a part of this because it was a phenomenal opportunity for everyone. And I believe this is my last slide to talk about the advertisement and the public relations. So you can see we had a day where Broward Sheriff came out, and that's one of our little stars there with her. She actually sang for them that day. And then we have a Stella's Brilliant Bus that came out, and we're working on a pilot with her this year where we will be watching our kids over the summer and giving them computer access so that they could prevent that summer slide and do some activities to keep them where they are or advance them going into the next school year. We had a visit from Commissioner Putnam. He came out and visited our site. So we have a lot of activities going on, and it is just a phenomenal opportunity for the Broward County Housing Authority. It is a win-win-win for us. The kids win, the parents win, and the Housing Authority win when you're involved in this type of program. It takes the work. The volunteers are very helpful if you invest the time in them. And, again, it's a win-win situation, and I hope those of you who are not involved, that you consider it for this summer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tisha, for that great presentation. And now we're going to take a lot of these questions that you had and get them answered. Okay, so quickly for Oakland and Broward, this is a simple one. How long do you serve the meals for? 1
hour. Yeah, we do an hour, 5 days a week. It's open.
We also do 5 days a week for about 4 hours a day.
Okay, thank you. And I know you both went over this, but there was a lot of questions about hiring the residents. Can you quickly just explain again how you do that, Oakland and Broward?
You want to, Lydia?
So this is Oakland. What we do is we advertise to our residents that we have an employment opportunity available, and it is a standard employment interview, screening, references. Individuals are then selected and attend training. And again, we do have some who repeat year over year, and then we also have slots that are open for newcomers. We also ensure that we have enough interns to cover in the event that somebody misses a day or falls ill or something as well.
For Broward, we pretty much do it the same way, but we do the screenings and everything through our sponsor. So they do fill out an application. They do go through the process of interviewing, and but it's all done through our sponsoring agency.
Okay, thank you. This question is from Damaris Carbone. Are public housing residents able to count their volunteer time toward the community service requirement? Oakland or Broward?
For us, they right now don't count it. We could try and do that and sign off, but we're not doing that at this point.
And for us, we're no longer a public housing authority, so we don't have to use that requirement for our residents anymore.
Okay. Okay, here's some questions that I'll be able to answer. Do the menus have to be approved by a government agency? Yes, there are dietary guidelines and requirements for what goes into the meals, and sometimes our FNS regional office will take a look at your records and what goes into the meals to make sure that they meet the dietary guidelines. Your sponsor is the one that usually takes care of that, so as a site you wouldn't have to worry about that, but yes, the meals have to meet our dietary guidelines and nutrition requirements.
We just have an antidote to that they learn the meal schedule, and we have popular days and less popular days.
That's fair enough.
We were
okay,
able to get around that this year because we took on a new catering company, and literally almost every day and every week the meal was different. So that was exciting for us this year because we changed our catering company.
Okay. Yes, and there's some sponsors and sites out there that actually will allow a site to offer the meals to adults, people over the age of 18, for a price, and then they can use that money to put back into their program and improve meal quality that way as well. And by offering meals for a price to adults, that also encourages adults to come out and eat with their children. So this program is really creative, really flexible to the different situations that you're in. So your best friend is your state agency and your sponsor. Work with them to modify the program to your needs. So let's see. There's a lot of questions about, is this PowerPoint available? Yes, I'll be sending out Eric's and Tisha's presentation as well as mine to everyone after this webinar. Let's see. I'm trying to go through all the questions. Okay, Liz Chipman says, please explain the reasoning behind not allowing children to take any portion of the meal off-site. That's what we call congregate feeding, and the reason is it's a statutory requirement. It's required by law. You can ask for a waiver, because I know sometimes, especially in Florida, it can get really hot. You don't want your kids baking out in the sun, so you could apply for a waiver. And again, your state agency is your best friend for that. Well, here's a question from Lynn Busby. Do you all, Oakland or Broward, think it's easier or better to bring the meals to the children or bring the children to the food?
I think Broward really answered that. Tisha did, about using it as an outreach and community event and building community and having the children come to the food. But for us, and I think for you, Tisha, they don't really come to the food. They come to the recreation activities, and the food's the add-on.
Well, yeah, we learned that very, very early in our first year, because when we initially started, it really was about the food. But those were one of the lessons learned in our first year that you had to have some activities. And once we did that, the participation started to grow, and there was a consistency in the children, because we do lunch and snacks. So when the children would go home for lunch, they wouldn't come back for the snack. And once we started doing some of the other, added in some of the other services and activities, the children wouldn't go home, which was a good thing for us, because it was just a rare opportunity that you get to have everyone there and just use that for management to come in and talk about things, and it was just a win-win for us once we really learned what we needed to do in the program.
Excellent. Thank you, Tisha. So we're at the top of the hour. I just want to answer one more question and then send out one more question to Eric and Tisha. One question was about serving these meals during vacation, during winter break or spring break, or even during the school year after school. And the USDA Food and Nutrition Service has a program for that. It's called the Children. I think it's the Children and Adult Care Food Program, and within that program, it's called the At-Risk After School Meals Program. I'll send you guys some information on that, just in case you, as a public housing authority, wants to use that program. And if you use Serve Summer Meals, there is a streamlined application process to be able to serve meals for after school during the school year. So look out for that. And my final question for Tisha and Eric is, there was a question from a lady. It was a pretty good question. Okay. Can a person start small with just their apartment community and maybe the following year enlarge it to include more area?
Absolutely. Starting small is good. We started with the foresight in terms of our housing development when we first started, and then we grew into a larger program. We learned a lot of lessons, so starting small is a good idea, and it just helps develop your program and you learn good lessons, and then you're able to expand it into something bigger and something better. So I would say yes.
For us, I would check with your local agency that is administering the program. For us, you have to have 25 kids, I believe. And if you drop below, they're going to not do it, so you need to have 25 participants. Remember, everybody who shows up gets to eat. There's no paperwork, so they just show up and eat, so it's not a hard threshold if you have something going on and do your outreach. And since it's the last question, I just want to thank Jimmy for pulling this together. It means a lot to us to make sure our families have access to healthy foods and try and address the health issues. I also just want to, because she's on the line, Maria Queen is on the line from HUD, and thank her for her efforts over the years at a lot of the youth initiatives that Oakland's done, and also to Ron Ashford. I don't think he's on the call, but tell him I said hey. Thank you all.
Okay, so that concludes our webinar. I'd like to thank Eric Johnson and his colleagues, Lenita and Patricia Wells at the Oakland Public Housing Authority for presenting, as well as Tisha Coleman, the Residence Relations Manager from Broward County. I think you're no longer a housing authority, a housing development, but
no, we're not a public housing authority anymore.
Okay, excellent. But I'd like to thank both of our presenters, as well as Maria Lana Queen from HUD for helping us promote this webinar. And I think this has gone well. Sorry about the technical difficulties early on during the webinar, and we'll try to fix those problems. And hopefully maybe we'll have another webinar for you on whatever topic that interests you, maybe the after-school meals program. So look out for that, and thank you all, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Thanks, Tisha. Thanks, Eric.